Hello, everybody, and welcome to the 18th installment of Chaos Under Heaven. I am your host, fellow traveler, and today, this special stream will be hosted by 100% less Fidel. Unfortunately, yesterday, my computer decided it was a great time to have a 3.5 hour update right before I started the stream, so I decided to move my interview and talk with Fidel till this Saturday. Jason will be potentially joining in, so stay tight. But in the meantime, we have a lot of current events to talk about, a lot of different things going on right now. So I figure why not have a solo stream today to kind of tide you guys over for the main course. So with that being said, let us go ahead and get started. What's up, guys? What's up? So I'm a little tired right now. I didn't get really good sleep last night. I fortunately have a special drink with me, coffee, some espresso to help get the mental juices going so that we can talk about current events. So there's a lot of interesting stuff going on in the world right now. But I wanted to talk a little bit more about the harm reduction candidate. I wanted to talk more about the person that got elected and put into power that was supposed to stop the big bad evil dude, Orange Man, because as we all know, Orange Man bad. Let us see how the alternative fares, though. There's an article on WSWS.org, or the World Socialist News website, that I'd like to review with you guys, and we're going to talk about how imperialism has gotten woke. Hear that, guys? Imperialism has gotten woke. It's gotten very progressive, guys. Now, instead of having a bunch of white old men pilfer and rape the coffers of the world, as well as the United States, we have some women, we have some people of color, we have some gay people in there. So progressive, It feels so much better that it's a woman looting the treasury instead of a man. But anyways, let's go ahead and get started. Let's go ahead and read up, comrades. Here we go. Joe Biden's cabinet, a rainbow coalition of imperialist reaction. Let me get another swig of my coffee. I'm still waking up, like I said. All right, let's do this. The corporate media and Democratic Party are celebrating Joe Biden's incoming cabinet as the most diverse in U.S. history, proclaiming that the appointments of women, African Americans, and Latinos to key cabinet positions is a sign of tremendous social progress. In reality, Biden's rainbow coalition of imperialist reaction encapsulates and exposes the right-wing essence of identity politics. Nowhere is the excitement more palpable than in the editorial offices of the New York Times, a leading proponent of racial and gender politics, which gushed that the president-elect has signaled his intention to draw from a diverse cross-section of America in building his cabinet. The Times wrote, unlike President Trump's cabinet, which is more white and male than any in nearly 40 years, Mr. Biden's list of likely top advisors promises to reflect 21st century sensibilities. It cites statements by Biden aides claiming the incoming cabinet will look like America. Whatever skin color of the cabinet members, the Biden administration will not think like America. The population is demanding massive social change to address the deadly pandemic and unprecedented levels of inequality and social desperation. Though over 7 in 10 Americans favor universal health care, there will be no constituency within the cabinet for such a policy. The same goes for more than 6 in 10 Americans who support tuition-free college and student debt forgiveness. They will be represented by a cabinet consisting of equity fund partners of various races and genders. While 8 in 10 people now favor diverting money from police departments to support social programs following this summer's nationwide multiracial demonstrations against police violence, Biden has pledged to increase funding to the police. And for the over 75% of Americans who want troops removed from Afghanistan and Iraq, and who support cutting defense spending, the multiracial Biden cabinet will give them the exact opposites. Excuse me. The nominees are not pioneers of race or gender. They are social criminals. Avril Haines, a former deputy director, will be the first woman director of national intelligence. Haynes was an architect of the Obama administration's drone assassination program, which killed thousands of impoverished Africans, Arabs, and Central Asians, with no attention to the victim's gender. Alejandro Mayo Cross, I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce that, will be the first Latino head of the Department of Homeland Security. This will be little comfort for the hundreds of thousands of Latino immigrants he will deport in the coming months and years, or to the immigrants' children he jailed in cages when he was Deputy DHS Secretary from 2013 to 2016. Janet Yellen will be the first woman Treasury Secretary, after having helped implement the quantitative easing policy that transferred tens of billions of dollars to the banks on a monthly basis during the Bush and Obama administrations, while providing no support for millions of foreclosure victims. Linda Thomas Greenfield, an African American, will be the ambassador to the United Nations. Thomas Greenfield worked in the State Departments to help American oil and mining corporations extract resources from the world's most impoverished countries. Though not formally a member of the cabinet, Vice President-elect Kamala Harris, don't even get me started on her, the first woman and first African American in that position, made her career as a black woman prosecutor by trampling on the lives of mostly impoverished people she incarcerated. Then there are the white men, whose own records are no more and no less criminal than those of their female and minority counterparts. Anthony Blinken is the nominee for Secretary of State, having helped orchestrate the wars in Syria, Libya, and Yemen. He was a partner at a private equity firm and co-founded West Exec Advisors, which worked with the Israeli intelligence and helped develop Google's censorship tools. Former Secretary of State John Kerry, supporter of the intervention in Syria and the 2013 coup in Egypt that established the murderous al-Sisi dictatorship, will be climate czar. As for those on the short list for the other cabinet positions, the Times holds its breath for the prospect of Tammy Duckworth becoming the first handicapped Thai woman to serve as defense secretary, former South Bend, Indiana Mayor Pete Buttigieg to be the first openly gay Secretary of Transportation. Wow, such progress, such progress. Oh, man. I don't think I need to explain what the problems with any of this is. But to put it short, one cannot liberate the plantation using the master's tools. All this is really just a kind of a form of, not really commodification, I don't believe that's the right word for it, but basically this is neoliberalism at its finest. You have all these liberals, the SJW types, basically people that are kind of like, they care about the issues, but they're too lazy to really look deeper into things, and they're just very, very mired in it. And it is a real phenomenon. There are a lot of these SJW types that do tend to be more leftward on economic or on social issues, and there's nothing inherently wrong with that, all right? The problem is that, I mean, the system is still intact, and the system itself is what's racist and what's bigoted, because it's what fucks over women and minorities everywhere. And changing the people that are doing the oppressing doesn't change the fact that the system is still operating the same way, you know? It's sort of like, oh, hey, meet the new boss. He's just like the old boss, you know? It's absolutely ridiculous, and I mean, anybody with, you know, we obviously recognize this for the bullshit that it is. We recognize that this is really just virtue signaling and just a way to appear progressive and appear like we're getting things done without actually doing anything. And I'm willing to bet that the mainstream media, the neoliberal media, is going to use any criticism of these folks as a means to brand people bigots. Like, oh, you're criticizing a woman that's signing off on having brown people murdered in the Middle East. Oh, that makes you sexist, or it makes you homophobe if you criticize Pete Buttigieg, you know? I mean, it's just going to be used as a way to smear people and try to deflect from completely genuine criticism. And the saddest part is it actually kind of works. People, like, legit fall for this bullshit, like, all the time, you know? It's really unfortunate. Oh, shit. God damn it. Nothing can go my way, can it? Alright, great, I'm lagging. I'll read a little slower for you guys here. I'm going to go ahead and go back into the full screen so we can get through the rest of this article. It's just a way to not do anything about the system and leave it intact while basically giving the appearance of progress. Really, that's all. When you get down to it, that's really all capitalism is about. It's about appearing like you're doing the thing that you want people to do. It's about selling people on shit, but ultimately protecting your own agenda and protecting your own interests. Because at the end of the day, that's, well, what the system is all about. It's about protecting your own interests and giving off the appearance of fulfilling another person's interests. It's really just a form of psychological manipulation, you know? Like, oh, anyways. The ruling class's bipartisan policy is to fuel the markets with the ruling class bipartisan policy is to fuel the markets with death like coal fuels a steam engine train. Biden has reassured corporate America that there will be no lockdown, while Democrats and Republicans have conspired to ensure no substantial increase in the benefits for the unemployed. 2 days since Biden began announcing his cabinet picks, the Dow Jones Industrial Average shot up by nearly 1,000 points, breaking records and crashing through the 30,000 point mark. The affluent sections within each race and gender grow obscenely wealthy, while workers of all races confront varying degrees of disaster. The selection of Biden's cabinet shows that politics based on race, gender, and sexuality have become a fundamental part of the Democratic Party's efforts to divide workers, enrich themselves, and falsely present themselves as representational of the broad masses, who in reality have no representation whatsoever in any branch of government. Meanwhile, Trump and his fascist supporters capitalize on growing dissatisfaction with race-obsessed Democrats. Trump doubled his support among black men and women in 2020 election and tripled his support among LGBT people. At the same time, the far right sees recruitment opportunities at young white people who have no prospects for the future and are tired of being told by Democrats that they are nothing but racist deplorables who deserve their desperation. So this sort of gets into the dual nature of this woke id poll bullshit, because as I stated earlier, on one hand, you have some people, mainly within like the center left, like liberal bubble, that think that this is progressive and that this is a good thing. You have these types. On the other hand, you have like people that are more towards the right who see this and they can identify it for the bullshit that it is. And because it is bullshit and people recognize this as what it is and they understand the Democrats don't represent their interests, that's the thing. This is sort of like the way in which the Democrats kind of embed and enable the Republicans, and by extension embed and enable fascism, which is the reason why the Democrats need to be abandoned, because when they do this type of bullshit, when they just, you know, sit here and pretend to like actually care about our interests and to represent us while snuffing pretty much any and all progressive policy and demonstrating massive contempt for their base, because the Democrats are supposed to be, you know, representation of the working class base, which they've completely abandoned and demonstrate overwhelming contempt for time and time again. This is what chases people to the right, because they look for alternatives. And unfortunately, because there's not really like a true hard left, we're largely in the underground phase right now. A lot of people are going to end up turning rightward because of this, because they don't like the bullshit. And I mean, it's just sad because the Republicans are very good at picking, like, Trump is not unique, people. I really don't think Trump is unique. He's utterly disposable. There are literally dozens of other people like that are out there like Trump, you know. The Republicans have a habit of picking sort of like an authoritarian strongman who's sort of like a faux straight shooter, who's, you know, short, straight to the point. He's just the strongman persona, you know. Like, you see this with the cult of Reagan in the 80s. You see this with George Bush. You see this with Donald Trump. They deliberately prop people up like this. You know, because when your life sucks and you're having all these problems and you see this strong authoritative figure that says he's going to fix everything, you know, that tends to resonate with people. The Democrats don't demonstrate that. They constantly demonstrate weakness. They demonstrate that they really don't care, that they're not about the little guy. And it's just bad for us in the long run, honestly. It's very beautiful. It's very beautiful how the two-party system props itself up. They prop each other up better than a one-party dictatorship ever could, and it's brilliant. Anyways, let's go ahead and finish this article. In order to immediately address the social needs of workers around the world, the trillions of dollars hoarded by the rich must be seized and made available to alleviate human suffering. This requires the greatest possible degree of unity of all workers in a common struggle. The world working class consists of billions of people who work thousands of different jobs, speaking hundreds of languages, and have hundreds of different religions and customs. Their skin, hairs, and eyes happen to come in many colors. Not even that much variety. What? There's like 5 colors of human. You've got like what? White, brown, black, yellow, and red. I mean, honestly, that's pretty much it. And it's such a dumb, arbitrary thing. Like, it's so crazy how people divide one another, like, over nationality and so on. It's incredible how divide and conquer just works like that. And it's pretty ridiculous. And a lot of it comes down to the fact that human beings do not have... There's a part of our brain that's like our fight or flight response. It's like our lizard brain. And whenever we encounter someone that we disagree with or somebody that we see as different, you know, there are a lot of assumptions that come with that. And whenever we encounter someone that we disagree with or we have an argument with, I mean, the same mechanism that's come very useful in the past that has allowed us to react to situations because you don't have a lot of time to think, you know, think long term or think deep about something. When you have like a crocodile that's about to maul you in the face, you're just working on fight or flight because that's survival. And this was a useful mechanism for, you know, millions of years. But this very mechanism in our brain is the same one that causes us to experience that fight or flight rush whenever we encounter someone with a different thought or different opinions. And I mean, the internet doesn't help because, as you guys know about the hug boxes and the echo chamber that are embedded and enabled by the internet. And aside from that, what I'm trying to say is there's a reason why the word reactionary exists. It's because people are reacting. They're not thinking deep. They're not like trying to like truly analyze something and utilize this beautiful, beautiful evolutionary prefrontal cortex that we have, this massive neocortex that allows us to plan long term and think outside the box and not base our political opinions and beliefs off of a surface level understanding of the world around us, you know, because that's unfortunately what a lot of people do. And it's unfortunate because it is in this way that the forces of reaction have a massive, massive advantage over us. They're just able to take advantage of people's like lizard brain response to danger and survival, which is why their politics are driven mostly by fear and hatred. But let's go back to one point to that article. There is something this article mentioned. Basically, Wall Street's excited that Biden won, obviously. The thing is that this whole Biden campaign, this whole like vote blue no matter who, orange man bad bullshit, was really just a massive propaganda psyop. Like seriously. And all these people, all these progressives on the internet that told you to go out and vote for the Democrats fell straight hook, line, and sinker for the psyop. Or they're protecting their class interests because, let's be honest, like the ContraPoints and Agent Kaczynskis of the world are straight up bourgeois. You can't tell me this person, you know, has the same relationship to the means of production as me, a guy who works almost 60 hours a week in a warehouse. But anyways, like I said, it was a huge psyop and it worked because voter turnout was historically high and Biden got 8 million more votes than Trump. He beat Trump pretty comfortably in the Electoral College. Like, he just beat Donald Trump. And it was all under the guise that Trump is so much worse than Biden, but really it's just a negligible amount of harm reduction, if that. If anything, it's going to be worse for us because now, you know, the one moment Americans, you know, gave a shit about politics and they were united, a lot of them are likely to just go back to sleep and just stop caring. And I think a lot of people are just becoming numb to the immiseration. Like, I mean, think about how like rampant fentanyl addiction has become just normalized by the culture, you know? Like we have all these problems in society and they've all just been normalized. Like, it's sort of like, it's going to get to the point 5 years down the line where I go to the grocery store and come back after my girlfriend sent me on a grocery shopping trip. And when I come back, she's like, hey, where's the milk? I let her know, oh, I'm sorry, there wasn't any milk at the grocery store. But hey, there was a shootout between some neo-Nazis. And she's like, oh my God, seriously? They didn't have any milk? That's the kind of situation we're going to be in. Like, we're not going to wake up one day and the whole world's just going to be on fire. It's going to be a slow grind of more immiseration. And, you know, it's sort of like the frog there's an analogy. If you take the frog and you put it in some room temperature water in a bowl, the frog isn't going to jump out. But if you slowly raise the temperature hotter and hotter and hotter to the point to where it's boiling, the frog will get acclimated and the frog won't hop out, even though his life is in danger. And that's sort of like the situation here. We're the frogs in that boiling pot of water, and we don't know how to jump out. So yeah, no, Biden is going to be worse for us. He's going to be a more incompetent imperialist. He's going to deliver on a lot of the promises that Trump failed to the war hawks in Washington. You're going to see a vast expansion of imperialism. We're probably going to have another major war under Biden, or multiple major wars, because Obama massively expanded the number of wars that are going on right now. Like, we went from being involved in like 3 conflicts to what, 7 or 8, some of them in Africa. Biden's probably going to do the same thing, get us involved in more conflicts, get us involved in more coups. And now the return to normalcy is coming because we're recovering from this massive fucking crisis. This is the power of the privilege of being a world reserve currency, where you can just, you know, print your way out of a crisis. But for most of the population, I mean, we're just getting squeezed. Anyways, where were we? I'm going to go ahead and move on. I think now is a good time to move on. Anyways, I have another article for you guys. Let's go ahead and review this one. Let's go ahead and talk about what the rich are thankful for. For most Americans, this will be the worst Thanksgiving they can remember. 250,000 people in America are dead from the pandemic. Tens of millions have lost their jobs, and countless others are hungry or on the verge of being evicted from their homes. For months, workers throughout the country have played a daily game of Russian roulette every time they punched into a shift at a factory, warehouse, or store. But the view from Manhattan's Billionaire Row is much more pleasant. On Tuesday, the Dow Jones Industrial Average hit a record of 30,000, up nearly 70% this March. This, in turn, has fueled the wealth of the ultra-rich. A recent report from the Institute for Policy Studies gives a sense of the enormous upward redistribution of wealth that has occurred since the outbreak of the pandemic. 10 billionaires have combined wealth of $433 billion and have seen their wealth increase $127 billion since the beginning of the pandemic mid-March, about 42% increase. These 10 are Jeff Bezos, Alice Robb, and Jim Walton, Apruva Meek, whatever the fuck your name is, John Tyson, Steven Schwartzman, Henry Kravis, and George Roberts, and Steve Feinberg. Just got to keep giving those billionaires all that money. They sure did earn it by the sweat of their brow. I'll tell you what, man, these billionaires must just be superhuman. They just must be godlike entities to be able to work thousands of times harder than the average wage workers that they employ, you know, around the globe. Because let's be real, you know, these people are neoliberal oligarchs. They have their operations expanded all over the globe because that's what capital does. It penetrates markets and it penetrates everything everywhere and gets its fucking slimy tentacles dug so deep into the earth that there's no corner left uncommodified. But anyways, so this list, Elon Musk, who recently eclipsed Bill Gates to become the second richest man in the world, Haha, get fucked, Bill Gates. Musk has had his wealth surge by 112 billion. Oh my god! Holy shit! What? Damn, he made better gains than Bezos. Because didn't Bezos only? Yeah, Bezos made 70 billion. He went from 113 billion. Oh, the billionaire Thanksgiving. Holy shit! Okay, March 18th of 2020, November 17th, increase. 20,000 Amazon workers infected by COVID. 11,000 Tyson workers infected by COVID. Jeff Bezos, $70 billion. 113 billion to 182 billion. Oh my lord! And then Elon Musk went from 25 billion. Holy, oh my. This is just unfathomable, like the amount of money that these people are hoarding. They're not making this money, they're hoarding it. It's incredible to me how unbelievably fucked this system is. Like, how can you look at this and think this is fair? I've met delusional right-wingers that think this is just completely reasonable, that they just earned it. You don't see something that seriously freaking wrong? Like, guys, oh man, you know what? Off $1 million, I could live comfortably for the rest of my life. Hell, off $500,000, off $250,000, I could live comfortably and do very well for the remainder of my days. I would only need to work part-time to sustain myself. But like, the ungodly amount of, oh man, I want to do some math here. You guys ready for a little math? Let's find out how much richer your average American would be if this money instead went to, you know, the adult population. Like, let's assume there's about what, 220 million adult Americans. So let's do a little math. So the rich. Okay, so the total wealth of U.S. billionaires increased by $1 trillion. So we got 1,000, a million, a billion, a trillion. Let's divide this by 220 million. So your average American, if we redistributed this wealth from the bottom up, this $1 trillion, if this money didn't go to these vampires, these fucking parasites, and instead went to the average American, every American would be receiving $4,500. Now, that may not sound like too much, but that's actually a good chunk of change. Like, I can tell you right now, my life this year would have been a whole hell of a lot easier if $4,500 had been added to my pocket. But of course, this is the wealth that came from us. This is the money that came from us, you know. Capitalism is, in fact, for all intents and purposes, a zero-sum game. So one thing that a lot of people will mention is, oh, increase in living standards. Increase in living standards. Capitalism increases living standards. No. Improvements in science and technology, growth, economic growth, and advances in the productive forces increase the general levels of wealth in society, which by extension does improve living standards. But capitalism is just an economic system. Sure, one could argue that capitalism, you know, spurs innovation and so on, but most of our innovation and advances in the productive forces don't even come from the private sector anymore anyways. A lot of that comes from government-funded research. Like, the lion's share of it comes from out of our pockets. They take it, patent it, privatize it, you know, and they might make some tweaks and varieties, you know, and then they just turn it into commodities and sell it back to us, you know? Capitalism doesn't raise people out of poverty. It doesn't bring people out of poverty. All it does is shift the burden more and more onto the deepest sections of the working class. People got fucking hosed this year because of this. This is ridiculous. This is just unfucking believable, dude. All right. According to recent research by Goldman Sachs, they wrote, the bottom 90% of Americans hold a mere 12% of the value of stocks owned by U.S. households. The U.S. economy has failed to deliver inclusive growth for decades, as real wages for many workers have been stagnant since the mid-2070s. Or not 2070s, we're not there yet. 1970s. They continue. The Fed itself determined last year that the majority of American adults would not be able to cover a hypothetical unexpected expense of $400. Yeah, most Americans don't even have, like, half $1,000 in savings, which is true. A scenario that for millions of Americans became reality when the pandemic forced the country to shut down. In short, the United States seems to have stumbled into a monetary policy regime that has untethered the fate of economic elites, who derive most of their income from state-protected financial assets from that ordinary people who rely on low and precarious wages. Such a regime offers permanent protections for those with high incomes from financial assets. In reality, U.S. capitalism has not stumbled into this policy. This state of affairs is the product of decades-long campaign to slash the living standards of the working class while enriching the financial oligarchy. Beginning with the Reagan-Thatcher-Volcker anti-inflation policies in the early 80s, the world's ruling classes launched a systematic campaign to drive down workers' wages and living standards. Anti-inflation policies, which originally entailed the raising of interest rates to create a manufactured recession in the early 1980s, were soon supplanted by decades of extremely low interest rates for banks and the implicit guarantee that the central banks would ensure there would be no serious fall in the value of financial assets. The ruling class responded to the economic and financial crisis of 2008 by launching, under both Bush and Obama, a massive multi-trillion-dollar bailout implemented over the course of years that led the stock market to surge amid mass unemployment. In 2020, the ruling class used the crisis conditions created by the pandemic to launch a bailout twice the scale of 2008, implemented within a matter of just a few months, leading the stock markets to surge to record highs almost immediately. It's kind of funny to me how the veneer of fiscal responsibility and not, blowing a hole in the deficit by right-wing demagogues just goes right out the window whenever it comes to guarding the interests of the ruling class. But the second it comes to anything that helps us out, maybe making a little college, maybe making college a little cheaper, maybe making sure we have health care, maybe making sure we don't have people that are working 50 hours a week and go hungry every night. Whenever it comes to that, all of a sudden we need to tighten our belts. We just got to be fiscally responsible. We're all in this together, Funny how that works. Total fucking double standard, totally ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. This shit pisses me off so much, dude, and it's absolutely absurd, and I hate how normalized it's become. Like, people, I mean, I know that most people aren't aware of this, but they're slowly becoming aware. Like, eventually, like, they can't keep this dog and pony show going forever, guys. This is just so unsustainable. Like, if you rinse and repeat this cycle a couple more times, eventually I feel like the lines between the first and the third and the second world are going to begin to blur, because this exploitation is just so naked and just so in your fucking face that it's just directly impacting people. Like, we're still floating at over 10% real unemployment. I know a lot of people that have been hosed by COVID. I mean, I'm working in the fucking warehouse right now because I was hosed by COVID. They laid me off, and then I spent like 3 months unemployed, and that's when I got a job at FedEx. But anyways, yeah, and by the way, at FedEx, just to let you guys know, I've met people that were pharmacists, that were like therapists, like college-educated people who are high-skilled workers, that are high-skilled people that are doing this job, moving boxes around in a warehouse, pertains nothing to their individual talents, nothing to their creativity, nothing to what they're actually good at. No, but the market, the all-seeing market, has decided that these pharmacists and psychologists and these construction workers, these people that could be off doing something way more productive, are better off moving packages around in a factory. Gotta love capitalism. All right, moving on. Beyond the trillions of dollars that went directly to Wall Street, even the funds supposedly meant to preserve workers' jobs took the form of corporate handouts. As Chapin Blythe noted, an MIT team concluded that the PPP Paycheck Protection Program handed $500 billion in loans, yet saved only 2.3 million jobs over roughly 6 months. the annualized cost of the program costs comes out to roughly $500,000 per job. The bailout was, wow, so you have to pay these corporations $500,000,000 or $500,000 to not fire someone. That's the incentive that it takes to keep them from laying everybody off. Fucking unbelievable, man. Anyways, the bailout was followed by reopening of workplaces in April and May. By the end of July, the emergency federal unemployment benefits available to some workers were allowed to expire, with legislators of both parties arguing that keeps, oh man, if Congress don't pass a stimulus by the end of this year, if they don't do something about like the moratoriums and like people just being so behind on bills and being fucked because Americans have been squeezed for everything they've got, you know, I kind of hope they don't pass anything. I kind of hope that in their hubris and in their detachment and their fucking shallow husks and being nothing but conduits for the capital that they now serve undyingly, I hope that in that they don't do anything about this and they just ignore it, because Americans are in for a huge wake-up call, like a serious fucking wake-up call coming next year. Like we're looking at a mother of all civil unrest. This is going to make the Black Lives Matter protests look like nothing. Like, dude, the BLM protests are going to be, it's going to be a little children's daycare gathering by scale. This is probably going to fucking destroy the country. But anyways, we're probably not going to be a country here if after next year, if this is as bad as I think it's going to be, you know, because you're going to have all these people evicted out on the streets during a pandemic, no security. Oh my God, it's a recipe for disaster. This is so bad. Oh my God. In 2020 elections, millions of workers voted against herd immunity policies of the Trump administration and single-minded subordination. Okay, so yeah, a lot of people actually want there to be a proper lockdown and quarantine. I mean, the cat's kind of out of the bag. I mean, I don't think COVID's ever going away, but I mean, it is what it is. But yeah, no, Biden declared there will be no national shutdown while reaffirming the Federal Reserve's unlimited commitment to propping up the stock market. Okay, now I remember what I wanted to say. So do you guys remember the 1,200 in stimulus? Okay, let's go back to chat. Let's do this, all right? So you guys, for my fellow burgers, all right? Do you guys remember that paltry 1,200 in stimulus that we got this year? I remember, you know, that you could only get if you paid your taxes for the last 2 years and, you know, you had your tax returns filed and ready. So there were some people that were even left out from that. Well, did you guys know that in the CARES Act, out of the, I think, $6 trillion, 4.5, 6 trillion, ballpark that area, I don't remember the exact number, but out of like, what, $4 to $6 trillion that was just given to Wall Street, we got like $250 billion. And we got $250 billion, fraction of $1 trillion, tiny sliver of the money went to the working class. And even that tiny sliver that went to the working class ended up going back to the banks anyways, because a lot of people owed rent. People spent their stimulus on rent and money. Most of that money went to rent, in other words, and that rent money went to the landlords, which usually take on debt from the banks. So that money goes straight to the banks anyways. It isn't even ours. Isn't that incredible? Incredible how that works. And this is one point that I feel like we really ought to agitate people on. We're gonna have to pay this all back in the long run, guys. Like that $6 trillion in stimulus, the Iraq war, Afghanistan war, all this debt and deficit. You can use this to agitate amongst your conservative friends if you like, but we're gonna owe back that money by like orders of magnitude in terms of interest, the way that they're stretching out, the way that we're gonna have to pay this back, because they're just gonna tax us more, and they're gonna tax us more, so the burden is just shouldered onto us once more. You know what I'm saying? Anyways, I'm gonna read some comments. Resistance in the first world now. We need to organize. The resistance must be led by the revolutionaries, not liberals. I mean, amen. Amen. Yeah, no, dude, we are the resistance. There's barely any of us here, but we are the resistance. I mean, even among a lot of socialist parties, I mean, there aren't really a lot of diehard people that are involved. Like, there are people that are committed, but, you know, we're not going to see Lenins or Mao's or Che's emerge from the imperial core anytime soon. And if you do, they're probably just going to get assassinated. Like, look what happened to Fred Hampton. They killed his ass before he could even do anything meaningful. Anyways, let's see some other. Okay, so I think this is a good praxis. In a video game, LARPing in Dungeons and Dragons, I think it would be a good idea if we set up a D&D campaign where you guys play a bunch of revolutionary cadres, and I, the dungeon master, display the wealthy elites that love to insulate themselves in their little private bunkers every time there's a major crisis, and the masses get all uppity and so on. You know, a little looting, a little redistribution by force. In Dungeons of Dragons exclusively. We can play that D&D campaign anytime you like. I am a dungeon master. Hey, MTW movement. I have been working 60 hours a week. That's where I've been. I work 6 days a week, 9.5, 10 hours a day. I'm doing it mainly. I went full-time at my job because, well, one, it's peak. I'm getting a couple more dollars on the hour, and two, it's so I can make more money. I'm trying to set aside, like, well, $1,000 for Christmas presents for my family, and then I'm gonna set aside like $2,000 for this YouTube project because I'm planning on doing like a super massive quality overhaul in like every regard. Like, I'm gonna be setting aside. I'm talking a new microphone, new webcam. I'm talking about, you know, transforming this room into a studio. I'm talking about getting some professional editing software, maybe even like hiring someone under me to do some editing for me, so I can churn out these videos a lot faster. Like, this channel project is gonna take off this year, and I'm gonna see to it that it does. And I'm gonna turn this shit into a propaganda outlet. Like, seriously, that's the plan. And this money that I'm gonna make over peak is gonna help me do that. So yeah, no, it's sacrifice now. Like, I know I haven't been uploading much lately. I've got something in the works. I'm gonna try to get at least 2 videos out before the end of the year, 2 scripted videos. But it's just so hard because I only have, like, by the time I wake up, unless I, you know, sleep deprive myself, I barely have any time to do anything. Thoughts on how Jimmy Dore has the same opinion and is based? Jimmy Dore is a very useful person for the intent of agitation. He's a very good agitator and propagandist, and I think he is a socialist, like, deep down. Like, I think he does identify with socialism, but he doesn't read theory and he doesn't know what that entails, and I think he's afraid to, like, come out and make that final step because it would hurt his bottom line and potentially alienate sections of his audience. I think that might be that might be the reason why he doesn't just come out and say it. It's sort of, and I mean, I think Jimmy Dore is better faith than Kyle Kulinski. Kyle outright insulates himself from the hard left, and I don't like that. Jimmy Dore doesn't really do it as much. Jimmy Dore is willing to, like, mention Marx and mention, you know, like, the October Revolution and so on. So I think Jimmy Dore is better than Kyle. He's about as far left as you can get as a liberal. So he has my stamp of approval. But anyways, I'm trying to join the PCUSA, and about the Chris Halali thing, I've come in contact with some new information, or I've learned about some new details with Chris Halali, and basically the IWW apparently is cool with them, and they're on, like, neutral terms again, or on better terms, because he did pay back that money. Yeah, he took the money, he paid it back, and we should hold him sus for that. But he's not a high-ranking member of the PCUSA. He's just a member of it that's running for Congress in Vermont. So I don't really think it's that big of a deal. As long as he's not put in position of the Department of Treasury, I mean, I don't really see that much issue with having him involved, you know. Very good anti-imperialist. Like I said, he's as far left as you can get as a liberal. Oh yeah, and Tulsi had a front of anti-war and later changed to be... Oh yeah, no, that's because Tulsi's an opportunist and a careerist. As it turns out, when you have a system that rewards you for being the most sociopathic, ladder-climbing, backstabbing, opportunistic, careerist asshole, as it turns out, the people at the top of that system happen to be the people that are best at doing that. Conversely, when you have a communist system, you know, as it turns out, when you have a system that actually requires you to be principled and requires you to actually give a damn about building a better future, in a sense, that system is fragile, and that's the reason why you have to have regular purges and work done to protect the revolution, which is the whole point of the dictatorship of the proletariat, something anarchists to this day do not understand. Where's Comrade Net? Where is Red Scare TV? I know I've asked about them before. Red Scare is in a similar boat as me, but he's working even more hours than I am. He's trying to organize like a union where he's working right now, and he's trying to like basically talk his coworkers into a strike. So he's doing some good work on the ground. That's where he's been, and he has my favor for it. As for Comrade Net, he's been a little dark lately. I don't really know where he's been, but he's been doing some stuff involved with the Bundists, like boots on the ground real work. But anyways, tell him to hit me up on Discord. Yeah, hit me up on Discord, guys. You want to reach me? There's a link to my Discord in the description, and yeah, I'll give you the time of day when I can. I got turned off on Tulsi when she alluded that she would be in favor of fucking drone strikes. Like, she would be a soft imperialist of the fucking Obama type, dude. When I've learned about that, when she's really not really going to bring the end of the wars, I mean, even if she was president, she wasn't going to end the wars, man. Fuck no, that shit wasn't going to happen. Are you kidding me? And she's talking, like, she's alluding that she's going to do drone strikes. Nah, fuck her. Like, that's even worse than you know, backing down on Medicare for all in my eyes. Here's a good question: how to deal with anti-communist family? You don't let them know that you're a communist, and if you have, you made a serious fucking mistake. Honestly, whenever the topic comes up, I would just try to talk to them. Like, if they really want to like budge you on it, then to them in a reasonable manner and try to, like, you know, present your case as calmly and as respectfully as possible. I have successfully turned some of my family members further left because of what I've talked about, and they've just kind of chilled out on it. You got to know to read your parents. Are they like the hard right conservative asshole types that'll throw you on the street because of a political opinion? You know, if you're in a position like that, then I would just keep it to yourself and don't let them know you're a communist, honestly. And if you feel, you shouldn't really feel obligated to come out if you don't feel comfortable coming out. But if you feel like it's something your family ought to know or you want them to know, I just don't recommend telling them, that's all. Anyways, let's go ahead and get to the next article, comrades. This one is about India. Millions of Indian workers joined national general strike against Modi governments for social attacks. Tens of millions of workers throughout India joined a one-day general strike yesterday in opposition to the pro-investor economic reforms and associated austerity measures of the Prime Minister Narendra Modi's Bharatiya Jana. Damn, that's a hell of a name. Narendra Modi's Bharatiya Janata party-led government. I probably botched that, but anyways. a huge mobilization, which organizers said involved 250 million people. Holy shit! Oh my God! Is a powerful expression of the growing mass anger against not just the Modi administration, but Indian bourgeois as a whole. It demonstrates the readiness of workers to fight ruling elites' onslaughts of jobs and wages, along with working and living conditions. Oh, oh, oh man, I'm so glad we finally got to the good news for once. We're through the bad news, but this is your good news for the day. Fuck yeah, dude. Fuck yeah. I fucking love this, dude. There is a lot. This isn't even, like, I read an article, January 2019, of a solidarity strike that was done in India with 100 million people. This is more than twice as many. This is even bigger. India is going to be a communist country within the next decade or two. Mark my words. You know, time stamp it, post it here. This is going to be a new communist regime in our lifetimes. We are witnessing the birth of a new communist regime because the seed of working class solidarity has been planted, and it has spread wide and far in India to this point. They've got active militias. They've got multiple communist parties with membership numbering in the millions, you know, and the government might try to bombard them with, you know, mustache man bad style anti-communist propaganda. They don't give a fuck, dude. They're just together, and I love the fuck out of this, dude. And then you know, I'm willing to bet it's going to be the climate apocalypse or climate change that is going to wrought massive destabilizing effects to India. Because when climate change starts to get really bad and the weather starts to really go to shit and things really start to spiral out of control, I think, well, India is one of those countries, because it's so close to the equator, that's going to be the most negatively impacted by it, which is going to cause a lot of social unrest and instability. And the regime, the current, like, crypto-fascistic regime in India, is not going to be able to cope. There is going to be an uprising and overthrow. It is going to happen. India has, out of all the countries on earth right now, I would say India has the greatest degree of revolutionary potential. Like, dude, 250 million people. You guys realize that's like almost 20% of their population, right? India has 1.2 billion people. So let's do a little math. So 255, 71. Yeah, that's like almost, yeah, that's actually over 20%. Oh my Lord. This is good news, comrades. Very good news. Strikers' demands included a cash transfer of 7,500 rupees, about $100 per month, to all non-income tax-paying families, the withdrawal of anti-farmer laws and anti-worker labor codes, universal social security, a minimum monthly wage of 21,000 rupees with indexation, and to all employees, including scheme workers, compulsory registration of trade unions within a period of 45 days from the date of application submissions, and ends to forced premature retirements for governments and public sector employees, public health care for all, and the allocation of 6% of GDP for public health and 5% for public education. Oh man. Solidarity with my Indian comrades. I give you full support, not critical support, full support. You have my favor. Good luck to you guys. Like, seriously. May you be prosperous. May you succeed. Oh man, that would be so good, dude. If India went communist, that's like basically 15% of the planet's population now under a communist regime. And under one country alone. One country alone. We could see the birth of a new Soviet Union in our lifetimes. An Indian Soviet Union, maybe. Yeah. An Indian Soviet Union. The only problem is that India is not really an aggressive country. They only wage war in self-defense. So that's like my main concern. And this is my main criticism. And this is my main concern of a lot of like old, like communist regimes of old. And we'll get back to the article in a second, but this has been like a prime concern for me. Is a lot of right-wing and Cold War propagandists have said historically that communist regimes have been very brutal and authoritarian. And you'll hear even anarchists say this, that communist regimes are brutal and authoritarian. But I'm about to give you guys a hot take. Ready for this? Hot take time. I'm of the opinion that actually existing communism has not been brutal or authoritarian enough. They haven't been hard enough. They haven't been strict enough. And that if the Soviet Union, while it was around, was more aggressive, it would have had a better shot at winning the Cold War. Like, and I mean like waging outright economic warfare on the US, using nukes as a deterrent, stealing technology from the West. Like, you know, you want to know what should have happened with Boris Yeltsin and all of his cronies? Those motherfuckers, along with Gorbachev, should have been kicked out of the party, rounded up, and arrested. And then dealt with in a similar manner that counter-revolutionaries were dealt with under Lenin and Stalin. I'll leave it at that. That should have been done, because what's the West going to do? What's America honestly going to do if their cronies, their little rotor cronies in the Communist Party are just dealt with in that way? Whine and bitch that the Soviet Union's authoritarian? They've already been doing that for decades. They're going to call you authoritarian anyways. I would just ignore it and go through with it and then tell the West to fuck off. Seriously. Can I join you on stream again? I'm pro you. It's fine. It's not obviously after you're finished reading. No, I'll have you on. Let me open up my Discord. Pro you wants on. Where is the trash man? Le trash man. Here you are. Anyways, I sent you a link to the Discord, but anyways. According to revisionists, according to anti-communists, anyways. Yeah, no. Well, Khrushchev's peaceful coexistence, in the long term, is a policy that I disagree with, but in the short term, it kind of made sense, because, I mean, you have to understand, the Soviets just got done fighting the bloodiest war in human history. They sacrificed a good chunk of their population to defeat the Germans. 30 million people died on the Eastern Front. So after that, I imagine like the Soviet people are pretty weary of war. I imagine they don't want to really go to war, because here's the issue. While the Soviet Union by itself was an industrial powerhouse, in terms of like technological and industrial might, they were outnumbered by like a 4-to-1 ratio by the Western colonial bloc. Like, it was a war, of a hot war that I do not believe that they could have won. In my opinion, honestly, I don't think they could have won it. Maybe if they were facing one of the colonial countries one-on-one, but I don't believe they could have taken all, France, Britain, and America at once. Because remember, America was absolutely unscathed after World War II. I mean, yeah, some of our people died, but, we were completely unscathed. And I mean, Europe, it was in ruin, but Eastern Europe was just leveled, Anyways, yeah, 10 years. I mean, Russia to this day has a gender disparity because of World War II. And the scars from such a brutal, bloody war last a lot longer. They take a lot longer to heal than 10 years. I think that the policies that the Soviets should have continued with, Prolyu is here, I'll let him in here in a second, but I think they should have just used nukes as a deterrent and then waged economic warfare from there on out. And what I mean are like sanctions, strategic moves, sending spies to steal technology from the West. What China's currently doing right now, stealing America's technology, because like, what the fuck's America gonna do about it, But yeah, no, that's my biggest criticism, my biggest beef with actually existing socialism is that basically we're too nice. We're not aggressive enough. That's my stance. Pro you, what's up?
Nothing much. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, good. Unfortunately, my camera isn't working. Otherwise, I'd show you the giant USSR flag I've got hanging on my wall, which I
Oh,
just bought. So that's fun though.
oh yeah.
Unfortunately, I'm using my computer instead of my iPad. But trust me, I've got a gigantic USSR flag, and I also bought a big Cuba flag.
Oh yeah, that's a shame. I'd love to see your flags. I've got a Che Guevara flag. I I had some commie garb that I was ordering in the mail. I was gonna go to Soviet Power and order me some commie garb. I got like a Chinese military hat with the red star on it, and I was gonna start wearing that. And I wanted to wear it on the stream, but I mean, it disappeared into the ether. I have no idea where that hat went.
Yeah, luckily, in my latest video, I have the flag up in the background, the one I did for Engels' birthday. Unfortunately, I spelled Engels wrong and had to redo the thumbnail and title, and I wasn't asked enough to re-edit the video, so it says Engles on the fucking
Yeah.
video.
All right, so today, I've got a couple of articles I was going to go over, and then let me ask you something. Are you well versed on Fidel Castro? Because I was going to talk about him at the end of this.
Yeah, I'm pretty. I mean, I've not read his theory, but on his story, definitely. Also,
Yeah, I
I've
haven't
been
read.
watching your streams, so I know the format.
I haven't read Fidel. I haven't read Castro. I really ought to have read Castro because I was going to talk about him at the end of this because he died last week and I wanted to kind of hold like a eulogy to commemorate his honor because 4 years ago a fucking legend passed.
Oh,
But
oh
yeah,
yeah. For a second, I was confused because it was like last week he died in fucking 2016.
well, yeah, he died at I
Yeah,
believe it
no, I
was.
get it now. I just thought you
Yeah,
meant like actually just last week.
yeah, I got you. Fidel Castro. But anyways, let's go ahead and check out this article. I want to go through a little more of it. So yeah, I don't know if you heard the strikers' demand, but they have central unions. They actually have outright organs of workers' control in India. So you've got the CPI Marxists, the CPI Maoists, the CPI. They've got multiple communist parties with millions of members. They've got these huge labor organizations. These like these strikes, lots of solidarity. India is looking, the future for India is looking very, very bright.
Mm. Oh, the strike looked fucking enormous. Two,
Oh, dude,
250 million.
dude,
Fuck.
dude, in January 2019, they had a similar solidarity strike, but it was with 100 million people. This is more than twice the size. This is 2.5 times as many people involved. This is a very, very important development.
If
So
one
anyway,
million, if 1 million people struck here in England, we'd probably be shot down with rifles. Like,
so millions walked out in the southern states of Kerala, Telangana, and Puducherry. Odisha in the east of Assam in the northeast, producing complete shutdowns, partially impacting many other states. Protest rallies were held in major cities and towns across the country, including Delhi. Kerala grounds to halt with the Stalinist CPM-led Left Democratic Front LDF state government supporting the strike. Wait, what? Kerala grounds to a halt with the Stalinist CPM. I had to reread that. So state-owned KSRTC buses did not operate. Private buses, auto rickshaw, and taxis were not running. So everything came to a freeze. Strike action also stopped train services. Dude, I got to lend more credence to the third worldists because I think they have a point. If India just cut ties with the West and just stopped being the world's workshop, that would fuck us so hard over here, like you can't even imagine.
like
Because
oh, you go.
yeah, just because India produces so many commodities for so many different countries, like imagine how badly that would fuck us over here if we couldn't have India.
Oh, 100%. I feel like one of the main benefits of China existing, even in their revisionist form, is the fact that, like, produce everything and can fuck us at any moment.
But then they'd fuck
That's,
themselves.
Yeah.
The issue is
Yeah,
that
because
China's economy is fundamentally interlinked and interwoven with our own. And the second America chooses to reindustrialize, China's fucked. China can't just cut ties with us. We're in kind of this really bizarre love-hate relationship with China right now. And we're interdependent on one another. The reason why the Chinese haven't experienced business cycles, this is something that Dangists always bring up. China's experienced relatively linear growth for decades. Well, China has room to grow, and China still has like hundreds of millions of people that have yet to be like fully proletarianized, that still live out in the countryside. So they still have a lot of room to grow. And not only that, but the other reason why they haven't experienced business cycles is because they are able to export cheap commodities and continuously tap into newer and newer markets. And when you're able to do that, you're able to circumvent the overproduction cycle or the overproduction crisis because you find more people to buy your cheap shit. And in the long run, this is actually fucking America because it pretty much annihilates business opportunities over here. So I do think China is probably going to surpass us pretty soon, but a socialist country, I do not believe them to be.
Oh, by the way, I've got it up on my iPad so I could join the stream and you could actually see me.
What's up?
I could actually be able to join the stream with you able to see me, so I might do it on my iPad.
That's fine. If you want to leave and come back, I'll bring you right back in.
It's fine. I can enter broadcast on my other device and just you can let me in on that device and I'll cancel out on this one.
Gotcha. Yesterday's strike.
Backstage now.
Yeah, all right. Oh, I see you. Remove. There you go. Now you're here. Yay, what's up, dude?
Not much.
U.S. wages are too high for manufacturing. That is true. Cold War II, let's go. There already kind of is a Cold War. Not really, though. There isn't going to be another Cold War unless India goes communist. No China. What's up?
Yeah, I was going to say because it's mainly because China is setting itself up to become an imperialist power.
It already is. Like, they're tapping into and dominating markets down in Africa. I mean, that's what they're doing. They're already, taking control of, African infrastructure. They're building the infrastructure in African territory, but it's not African infrastructure, it's Chinese infrastructure. And mind you, it's all private Chinese firms that are doing this, their activities in Africa. What they're doing is empire building, but the difference is that they're giving the African countries a better deal, and they're doing it for their Belt and Road Initiative so that down the line, they'll have that huge loop that goes from Asia into Europe, into Africa, back into Asia, is basically the plan.
It is actually smart for them to do so, because if you're going to offer them the same bullshit loans, nobody will take them because they just take the loans they've already got. The fact that
they're offering them a better deal, basically.
Yeah, which makes sense.
But let's not delude ourselves into thinking that the Chinese are doing this out of the goodness of their heart.
Oh, yeah,
anyway.
No.
Authorities in Haryana mobilized police to block its borders with the National Capital Territory, Delhi, Punjab, and Uttar Pradesh. Roadblocks were erected to prevent farmers from marching to the NCT. The Haryana BJP government also directed police to raid farmers' houses at midnight and arrest hundreds. Modi's national government similarly deployed. How are you going to suppress a quarter of your population?
They'll
How
try.
Do you do that?
They'll try and they'll fail. You know, a neutron bomb. That's how you do it.
Yeah, it's just not going to work. Let's see. Contrary to the workers' determination to fight the Modi's government attacks, the Stalinist unions called actions to let off steam and channel the growing opposition of the working class and rural toilers behind opportunist alliances with Congress and various capitalist regional parties. In line with this agenda, the CITU and AITUC collaborated with I don't know any what these acronyms stand for. The Stalinists, who have a long and sordid history of collaborating with Congress, allied themselves with these parties in the May 2019 general elections. They also contested the Bihar state elections early this month. The mass working class opposition to Modi's BJP-led government had already been rising for months. So basically, you have fifth columns in government. You have the quote-unquote Stalinist parties backing these various unions and organizations in Congress. I'm a little iffy on that. I don't think I'm very weary of fornicating too much with the bourgeois states.
Same.
Yeah, I'm a little weary of it. But like I said, I hope it all works out. I can't wait to see where this goes. But yeah.
I feel like India has more hope than the Philippines, to be honest.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not that I'm trying to downplay the Philippines or anything. It's just logistically, if India became socialist, the Philippines would be another Cuba situation or Korea situation, whereas India literally have like half the foot. It's like if half of Africa became communist.
Oh yeah, no, it's just because sheer numbers, resources, that and like I think China would still trade with India regardless. I don't think China would. Well, actually, no. China actually does support the Modi governments, and they also support like reactionary groups and governments as well.
Also, Duterte as well, which a lot of people forget.
Yeah. Oh yes, Comrade Xi backing fascist regimes. Yes.
You know, I actually just watched a Bay Area 415 video, and I watched it because some dentist sent it me. And he was like, you're kind of based, but you don't accept Xi Jinping thought as the next step in Marxism. And he was talking about how apparently Finball had once said that Xi Jinping is like the next leader of Marxism. And I just went to him and called him on Discord, and he literally said, "No, what the fuck? I've never said that."
Yeah, no, not at all. Xi Jinping is what I call a red social democrat. His conceptualization of what socialism is going to be by 2050 for China, there's still going to be a market economy. They don't intend on returning to planned economies. Just a heads up. This is straight out of the horse's mouth. Two, if you actually read like his thing on the governance of China, one, take a shot every time you hear socialism with Chinese characteristics. And, two, what he describes socialism as is just more of the government involvement in business. That it means more Communist Party officials. It means a stronger welfare state. It just means the state has a more heavy-handed approach in the economy, but that doesn't change the fact that you have an economy where profits are in command, where a billionaire class is facilitated and enabled, where most of the population is what? Like they're all, I mean, yeah, their wages are growing because they're, like I said, there's room to grow, but they still have like alienation. They didn't even have a national health care plan until a few years ago.
Oh yeah.
What the fuck kind of dictatorship of the proletariat doesn't guarantee health care to its citizenry?
The most hilarious thing, like even Vietnam has at least like Obamacare on steroids. Like the thing is with China, it's just like I get that the NEP had to happen in fucking 1920 because like if we were making this argument back in 1949, if we're making this argument back in 1949 when Mao had just took power, I would 100% get where you're coming from. However, we're in 2020.
Yeah, no, you don't need a 50-year never-ending new economic policy in order to build socialism.
Oh, by the way, somebody's asked me a question in chat.
Sure, we shall review that and then go on to the next article.
Yeah.
Let's get some questions.
Yeah.
Which one is it?
Maoist Third Worldist asked me. That was the question. I just reposted it. So, okay. So, I have just read some Lenin. I used to only consider myself a Marxist until I had read Lenin, but now that I've read Lenin, I'm an ML. And I've not read Mao yet, so I can't say if I'm an MLM or not. And I don't hate all anarchists. I work with anarchists that are legit and on the street. I just hate, like, fucking bullshit, like, bedroom anarchists. anarcho-liberals. That's what I despise.
China is a class collaborationist society. It is the definition of social fascism. So it's funny. That term actually finds its origins, I believe, in the Comintern in the 1930s, and it's what the Soviets were calling the German Democratic Party, the Social Democrats, because they were like actively crushing and quelling like communist groups, outlawing like communism, as well as like enabling the Nazis. And they were collaborating with Nazis, crushing the communists, and using social democratic like redistributive policies to like quell civil unrest. And that's pretty much where the term social fascism finds its origins. I mean, you could honestly, yeah, you probably could call China like a not really outright fascist, but like, they're pretty fashy, I'm not gonna lie.
Oh, also, I have a quote from Mao about the USSR, which, the USSR now is a dictatorship of the big bourgeoisie, a dictatorship of the Hitler type, a fascist dictatorship. So if that applies to the revisionist USSR, Mao would 100% see what happened to, the People's Republic of China as something massively revisionist.
Well, when Mao made that statement, there was a lot of polemic shit flinging going on. Chinese
I
and
disagree with him. I disagree.
Oh no, Mao lost the plot. By the mid 1960s, Mao was just gone. Like honestly, he should have been pulled. Like
the only person who went crazier than him was Hoxha in the 80s.
Yeah, no, Mao. That statement is outright slander, considering the Soviets literally just got done beating the Nazis like 2 decades prior. So
yeah. No, I disagree with him. I was just saying if that's
I know.
Yeah.
I just hate that quote. Mao started off so good, but he just ended so goddamn awful. But anyways, so you know who Janine Inez is, right?
No, actually.
Janine Inez was the the fascist dictator that took over Bolivia in a coup after the ousting of Evo Morales.
Oh, that fucking cunt. Yeah, I know.
Morales' party just recently assumed power.
Yeah, I know that.
And some of her fascist cronies have fled the country. Well, she tried to flee the country. She tried to flee.
Oh, yeah, I heard about this.
They stopped her from leaving. A representative of social organizations in Beni's department in north of Bolivia announced that they prevented Inez from boarding a plane at Jorge Henrique Aruz Airport in the city of Trinidad, and she was trying to go to a broader city and then flee to Brazil.
Woo! Yeah, baby! That's what I've been waiting for. Woo!
Wait, hold on. I gotta look this up real quick.
I got to quote Penguin Zero in a video.
Hold on a second. Let me
scroll through Super Mario.
Hold on a second. Get fucked. I was looking for the noise that's like dun 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 dun.
That's from Mario Sunshine. Okay,
Super Mario Sunshine, game over.
Oh, MLs tolerate Nazbols and hate MLs. That's because Nazbols are irrelevant, mostly. Unless you're in Russia.
Here we go.
That sounds even more like a failure than the one you were referring to.
Oh man, I'm so glad this bitch is gonna face justice. Seriously.
I wish I had a fucking one of those multicolored Bolivian flags right now because I'd be fucking shaking it.
No. This might be a controversial take among some libs, but I am not against capital punishment. I'm actually in favor of capital punishments.
Same.
And when I see this bitch right here, as well as the people that helped her like overthrow Morales, I see people that are guilty of treason. What is the punishment for treason? at virtually every country on Earth.
Death. Even in this country, if you betray the monarchy, you're supposed to get beheaded. That's still a law in England.
Yeah.
And everything else doesn't have capital punishment except being a traitor to the UK.
Yeah, one argument that I've heard against capital punishment that people make is, well, what if you get the wrong person? You know, from time to time you get the wrong people.
Oh, yeah. But this is the right person.
Like, the thing is, I've heard, like, Kyle Kulinski make this argument that then the system is killing innocent people that are on death row, you know, because, like, what, a small percentage of the people that pretty much get convicted aren't actually guilty of whatever it is. And while that is very unfortunate, so what you're trying to tell me is if someone is guilty of arson or larceny, because occasionally we get the wrong people, we shouldn't convict people and send them to jail for arson or larceny?
You know, I feel I feel we should require very sufficient evidence, obviously. Like, if you're caught raping somebody on camera, or you've recorded rape porn, or like they found you with a little girl dungeon, you should 100% be murdered. Like,
yeah, no. If it's ever a case where we don't have enough information or we don't have perfect,
you probably won't get charged for it.
Yeah, no, you just put them on death row and you just have them stay in prison until sufficient evidence emerges.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I am in favor of capital punishment, and it should strictly be reserved for the worst offenders, like this person right here.
Bro, I'm pretty sure everybody in Tanky Tube is like pro fucking owning assault rifles and RPGs, at least in a socialist context.
Yeah, no, we're not libs. We're not libs. I'm pretty sure most people here are pro capital punishment. I mean, maybe you could abolish it down the line, but for now, nah.
Yeah, there's that Marx quote about never disarming the proletariat, or the Enver Hoxha quote about all of our people must be armed.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. I believe not only guns should be legal, we should have mandatory firearm classes where we teach people how to shoot, clean, and respect their weapon. And you know, you could have, like, in the local municipalities, in case of an invasion, you could have like
militia
depots,
armories.
Armories where people can go and grab arms, and you just distribute firearms according to need. And you can try to invade our country, but literally everybody's armed and knows how to shoot.
Yeah. Oh, I believe it's 100% important. Like, the real problem with gun violence in America is that people are poor and don't have accurate mental health, don't have good mental health treatment, and are put in a system where, like, you know, people are constantly lonely.
A lot of it has to do with just the depravity of crime in general.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, there's a lot of access to guns in America, but there are countries that, like, have, like, way stricter gun control laws than we do, that also have, like, higher murder rates per capita than we do. And conversely, there are countries that have more lax firearm laws than we do, but also have, you know, lower murder rates per capita, almost as though, like, correlation doesn't equate to causation. So if you actually, like, ended the war on drugs and, like, had some massive public health campaigns, like vast, expansive public health campaigns, and actually did something to address the widespread alienation and social depravity in the United States, I don't have a doubt in my mind that you could, like, savagely curtail the rates of violence in this country.
Oh, yeah, 100%. I mean, like, maybe in the context of the current country where there's no, like, where they haven't solved wealth inequality in America. Yeah, if you give a bunch of people assault rifles, they're gonna go rob a bank, you know. But it's a different situation when you've actually addressed that concern.
Pretty much everyone in my family except my mom owns a piece. I own
nice.
My dad has an AK-47. My brother and my sister both have handguns. I have a handgun. Guns aren't. I mean, really, it just comes down to that. Guns don't kill people. People kill people. And Yeah, it's one of the few things I actually agree with conservatives on, you
Yeah,
know?
I almost prefer the quote for our side: "Guns don't kill people, poverty does."
Yeah, that's actually a better phrase, honestly.
Yeah,
So what's going to happen to her? She's definitely going to jail. Let's see. The Plurinational Legislative Assembly recommended that the Public Prosecutor's Office initiate a lawsuit against Inez for the massacres of Sa. Oh, dude, she needs this bitch needs to be put to death. Like
yeah,
seriously. Morales repeatedly called for charges against those responsible for the massacre from exile in Argentina and since returning to the country. Armed forces and police were vital to the coup. Oh, dude. The, dude, the new government really needs to clean their shit up. Like, they just need to go full on socialist. I'm talking
yeah.
one party state, dictatorship of the proletariat. First thing they need to do is purge the army. Purge the army of all the people that were involved or, like, might be dissidents. Then do the party purge where you remove all the people from the fucking parliaments that are, like, liberal and counter revolutionary and just initiate a planned economy. Stop any and all capitalists from leaving, liquidate their assets, make them descend to the ranks of the proletariat. Like they just need to go all the way with this shit.
You know,
Like seriously.
I feel like Maduro. Like, I mean, I have my own problems with Maduro, but he got the army on his side and has actually like fucking put people to death who's fucking gone against the government. Maduro
Yeah,
is like what mass needs to do. I feel like Maduro could eventually become like could be pushed to the point where he actually establishes socialism. But like, I'll have to see, obviously.
yeah. I think why they're hesitant is they're afraid America will invade. But like
Oh yeah.
America can't America can't just invade without like provocation. They've done a piss poor job manufacturing consents for a war in Venezuela. I do think that's a genuine concern, and honestly, I think Maduro should just bite the bullet and go through with building socialism because they're having a lot of economic policies doing this fence post sitting and pussyfooting with social democracy because their capitalists are just being assholes. Capitalists are just being capitalists. And they're having a lot of economic problems because of it. So
Yeah.
they really just need to go forward with it and just build socialism.
Because they're gonna try and invade anyway. So like,
yeah, like that's what I'm saying. Like like what if I were Maduro or I were Morales and I were to go through with building socialism and establishing the dictatorship of the proletariat, what the fuck is America gonna do? Whine and cry that we're authoritarian? They do that anyways. So let's just build it, and they're probably gonna invade anyways soon, just because the coming resource wars.
yeah, didn't they literally like send a bunch of like Blackwater people into Venezuela recently,
Yeah,
and they
and
all got captured and killed?
they all immediately got captured by fishermen on boats.
It's like how the fucking Cappies were ran out of fucking Vietnam by a bunch of farmers with punji pits, you know?
The Bay of Pigs. Did you know that the invaders in the Bay of Pigs were all gusanos? They were all like lords and like mobsters and criminals and capitalists that were in like storming the Bay of Pigs. And then it failed miserably. They all got captured, and then they got auctioned off back to the United States, or ransomed off back to the United States in exchange for like millions of dollars worth of medical supplies and equipment.
You know, I find it fucking hilarious. Like some of that shit. Like, I love the fact that I have a very good comrade whose entire family's are Gasanos except him, and is one of his granddads on his dad's side. Literally gave up his capital property in Cuba and sided with Castro. And on his mother's side, his great grandfather was a revolutionary who was killed by Batista and was one of the leading members of the Communist Party before Batista came. And he had to grow up with these shitty fucking Gastano like parents and like extended family. And it's the whole but he's just so fucking based.
Are you familiar with Andy Ngo?
No.
Okay, this guy. He's like he's a yellow journalist that does anti-socialist, anti-communist propaganda. He got punched by Antifa, and he totally deserves it. By the way, he got
Oh,
he had
yeah, I've seen that guy.
he,
The Asian guy
this
who hangs
is
out with white nationalists.
he says he got thrown with a milkshake. Oh no, this dude's straight up a fascist. But like, no, did you know that this guy, his parents are Gusanos? They're from Vietnam. They were Vietnamese
Oh,
capitalists.
those South Vietnamese pussies. Fuck, yeah.
Oh yeah, no. So that's where this reactionary little shit comes from. I don't know. This may sound really cruel or harsh, but how the fuck do you deal with the children of like the people from old power and privilege? Because they almost always irrevocably become these reactionary little shits that go to become demagogues of anti-communism.
Yeah, it reminds me of the
Every
Polish
time
character in this good book right here. You know, like because they're Polish and they were and they were fascists. They were fucked off, and then they got sent to America, and then they were fucking put. They were poor, but also, they were also fascist laborers. So whilst they're in the ranks of the proletariat, they're extremely anti-communist. So how the fuck do we deal with that?
lifelong trip to Greenland. That's my answer. You take all these kids, you build an oil rig in Greenland, and you deport them to work on that oil rig. That's my answer.
Gulag. I see. Gulag.
Yeah, but it's going to be out of country, so they can't spread their bad ideas. They're going to work in. It's either going to be a cobalt mine in the Congo, an oil field up in Greenland, a lithium mine in Latin America. And speaking of lithium mines, I think that would be a fitting punishment for Janine Inez. How about
100.
Send her to the lithium mines. She will do soul-crushing labor for the remainder of her days till she dies in those fucking lithium mines. I think that would be a fitting punishment, don't you?
Yeah, I think the fitting punishment of fucking fascists who in socialist countries who try and rebel against the government should be to be drowned in the Red Sea. The literal Red Sea. But I'm trying to make a fucking joke.
Oh yeah. Good analogy. Yeah.
I'm trying and failing because I can only think of so many good jokes at the same time.
Yeah. All right. So, where were we? Don't let them escape. Hard work. Concrete milkshakes. Total bullshit.
To be fair, concrete milkshakes should be a plan.
Okay, so I think this would be a good time to talk about. Oh, you have long hair. Cool.
Yeah, you didn't know? I had it up all the time. Oh wait, I wear a hoodie constantly. Never mind.
Yeah, no, I had long hair like a year ago, but I ended up shaving my head. But anyways, so basically, I do want to talk about my ideal criminal justice system. I mean, you got a point. The issue is that it's like clockwork. They're like almost always like this. So here's a better idea. So I'm in favor of a 4-tiered criminal justice system. And tier 0 is preventative medicine. You treat, crime and violence as a public health issue. You have like statesmen assess like current trends of drug and alcohol abuse and antisocial behavior, and how we can have like public health campaigns or implement policies to better adequately deal with it. All right, that's layer 0. Engineer an environment where people aren't even compelled to do these things in the first place. But that still leaves us with people that are problematic. So you have tier 1, rehabilitation. This is where you send your junkies, your petty thieves, your petty criminals, like your small-scale people that aren't guilty of anything too severe, but they have like impulsive behavior that's generally toxic. They're like a harm to themselves and community. So they just go to a rehab center to work through that shit. Sound good?
Yeah.
So, all right.
No, I think essentially they should go to adult school, basically.
Pretty much, yeah. And it's just a way to, get them clean, get them rehabbed. And then tier 2 is for people who are actually hardened criminals, people that are outright like thugs, murderers, rapists.
People affiliated with gangs, aggressive drug dealers.
Yeah, these are the people that are going to get sent to the gulag. And I am in favor of penal labor.
Yeah, same.
Basically, whatever damage you've done to society will be cause you to owe a tab to society in the form of vouchers. And
So
let's say you did 1,000 vouchers worth of damage. You are going to be in the gulag working that off until you pay off your tab to society. I don't believe in sending people for time in the traditional sense, but time in terms of what you owe society for your antisocial behavior.
time in socially necessary labor time, basically.
Yes, socially necessary labor time. And they gotta pay their own bills. They have to pay for their room while in the gulag. They have to buy their own food. You can have
We
your little shop.
subject them to capitalism, basically.
Yeah, you pretty much subject them to capitalism, and they're in there and they work and they eventually pay off their tabs. If they're on good behavior, they can go on vacation 2 weeks out of the year, see their family. They can have like private visits with like their girlfriend or whatever. You treat them with some humanity, but you're disciplining them for what they did.
I've just noticed somebody in chat say, "How about we turn the US into one gigantic labor camp?"
It already is. We all work like 50 to 60 hours a week. What are you talking about, man?
Also, have you ever heard of the criminal justice system and the fact that slavery isn't abolished in terms of being arrested? The fact that you have the biggest fucking, prison industrial complex in the world. Bigger than any gulag system.
Oh, yeah, no. We have more people in our prisons than Stalin had in his gulags.
Korea, over its, fucking 70-year history, has nothing on us.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So what's tier 3? This is where that capital punishment comes in. I am of the disposition that this is served for the worst offenders. I'm talking like serial killers, serial rapists, people who are like high-ranking kingpins, human traffickers, and like capitalist demagogues that are like trying to erode the system back to capitalism. Yeah. I'm of the opinion that these people are to be lined to the wall, pelted with 7.62 rounds, and then bulldozed into a mass grave.
Oh, 100%. I'd probably include people who do like Columbine-like attacks. Although,
serial killers, spree killers.
I am concerned though. What if they're like fucking 16 or 15 and they fucking meet a pole board on 4chan and like? But even then, that's not just. They should, at the least, they should be rotting in prison for the rest of their life.
Yeah, no, it's let's say there's about 40. Well, let's see. I don't know. I'm kind of the position people like that. What I would do, because they're not really in their right mind. I don't know. That's kind of like a special case type thing.
I think
they're definitely going to be in the gulag for a while. I
think the insanity plea is a thing. We can't just be sending mentally ill people to gulags. Severely mentally ill people should go to the funny school.
No, here's an idea. You send them to a lab. So because people like this are kind of like a rare anomaly. You could study people like this and learn from them. Imagine, rather than just, because I'm not going to sit here and advocate for killing teenagers on stream. You could just, send them
as
to
a
lab. As a teenager,
I could, but...
Yeah. And you would study them and you would figure out basically what makes them tick and how we can socially engineer society where we have less mass murdering teenagers. Which I don't really think would be much of a problem in the future because the mass shootings that take place in the United States are kind of unique to this country. All the shootings that go on in high schools. I mean, I don't know. I don't think
there was the New Zealand one, but that was a rare exception. Like the subscribe to PewDiePie one, That one was fucked. 1984 was an instruction manual. Fuck's sake.
Yeah. Damn it. You people need to learn not to call me while I'm streaming. I think society can afford to even lock these types up instead of killing them. You could also study their behavior to try and rehabilitate them.
Already a point you made.
Yeah, no. I kind of already said that. I mean, with certain individuals you could, but you don't need to keep them all alive.
Oh, by the way, we inviting Jason on?
I can't. Or
Oh.
I mean, wait, invite Jason on. Is he even available? Let me check.
Yeah, I invited you to his Discord.
Well, he just said K. I don't think he's really available right now. You know what? I'm probably gonna have him on this Saturday with Finn Bowl, so I'm not gonna worry about it. He seems down, like, because I let him know we're gonna stream again this Saturday. So
I mean, I'd ask if I could be on, but it's up to you, obviously.
Yeah.
I can be quiet on that. I know Finn Bowl. I know Jason as well, so I don't know.
Yeah, with all due respect, I'm probably just gonna have it be the three of us.
It's chill. It's chill. It's fine.
Yeah.
Like, oh wait, is it on Saturday or Sunday?
It's on Saturday.
Oh, okay, because
I might move to Sunday.
Because either way, I'm probably gonna either be doing reading for my party, or I'm going to be in the party meeting presenting a reading. So
yeah. So let's finish up with the last topic of the day. You know what? Well, the thing is, I'm gonna close the stream. I know you guys want Jason on, but I'm closing the stream in like the next 15-20 minutes. I just wanted to talk about Fidel Castro. He will be on the Saturday, so hang tight. Anyways, Fidel Castro, what do you know about Fidel Castro?
Okay, let's go.
Nice. You got a flag. You got the
got the flag. Okay, nice. So what I know about Fidel Castro is obviously, I mean, I generally know more about Che, but, you know, obviously, my first thing of him is, like, reading something about him being in Mexico after he got banished from Cuba and almost assassinated when he met up with Che Guevara, and obviously was in the July 26th movement with, Che. And, obviously, at first, he wasn't a Marxist. At first, he was just a left nationalist, but eventually, Raul Castro and Che convinced him to Marxism-Leninism after seeing the conditions of the Cuban population and country. And obviously, his legacy fucking speaks for himself, but, you know, being, like, the one of the best socialist leaders in the 21st century, stopping multiple invasion attempts, surviving 600 assassination attempts, you know, winning a fucking revolution and being in the fucking rank and file of the soldiers, like, having fucking, like, 6 or 7 wives. He fucks and is a chad, played shit tons of basketball, like, I can, you know.
Did you know that he actually attempted a revolution in the Dominican Republic before Cuba?
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, no. He actually joined like a military force of like over 1,000 people, and they were on their way to the Dominican Republic, but the invasion was ultimately stopped by the Dominican Republic under pressure of the United States. So it didn't ultimately succeed, but it's just interesting to me that he tried to overthrow the Dominica before he, took over Cuba. So yeah, he took over Cuba. He sent all his Gasanos and criminals and cronies on boats. I think it's hilarious that he just rounded up a bunch of criminals and just put them on tiny boats and floated them over to Florida.
Oh, by the way, here we go. I managed to put this here because luckily I have my fucking wardrobe, but we got it in the shot.
Oh yeah, there we go. The red flag of Cuba. So
it is actually genuinely very high quality. I got it from Carlton Books along with this pin. And you probably won't know this, but this is the ICA, the Irish Citizen Army, which is from the 1916 revolution attempt, the Easter Rising. I got all of these flags from that, so if you're UK based, their website's pretty good. Although they are they lean anarchist though.
A female CIA agent. Oh yeah, no, he's a true Chad. True Chad. This is like a classic love romance story out of a movie. A female CIA agent ended up actually dating him and switching sides. That's fucking great.
It's the opposite. It's the opposite of a James Bond movie where the Soviet woman would
That's fucking great, dude. Hey, did you know that the CIA made the CIA look like Wole E. Coyote, by the way, because they tried to kill him dozens of times. Like they poisoned cigars, they had bombs. They tried to kill him a bunch of times, but the only thing that could kill Castro in the end was old age.
Yep. If he wasn't going to die the first 100 times, he wasn't going to die.
Yeah, and what's crazy? They don't talk about this, but Cuba, I think this is actually a testimony of socialism's strength. Although nowadays I wouldn't necessarily consider Cuba like full-on socialist.
I actually wanted to talk about that in a second, but I'll let you continue.
Yeah, I would classify it as a progressive proletarian state and a dictatorship of the proletariat, but its actual economic mode is a mixed economy. They have a socialist sector, and they also have a thriving small private sector. But I mean, it is what it is. You got to make compromises if you're not able to hold up to your ideals. And I think it's actually a testimony of socialism's strength that in the face of being literally the most sanctioned country in the history of sanctions, and in the face of all this sabotage and terrorist attacks done by the CIA, out of invasions, out of everything America has done to destroy Cuba, they have failed. And Cuba is still going strong today. They have a higher life expectancy than we do. They're at the forefront of like a lot of medical technology and research. They export doctors all over the world. While Castro was alive, he helped tons of revolutionary movements in Africa and Latin America. I am a big fan of Fidel Castro, dude.
Oh yeah,
very big fan.
I just want, because usually the quote I use from Lenin to describe what I think socialism is in What Is to Be Done. From capitalism, mankind can pass to only socialism, that being the abolishment of private property and the distribution of wealth according to the amount of work done by each labourer. Now, with the first part, even the USSR, when we generally consider it socialist, didn't abolish the entirety of private property. And I feel like the private institutions of Cuba are so minuscule that I don't think it makes them non-capitalist in the same way that, I would see the private institutions in Vietnam.
Well, yeah, the thing is that they only let businesses grow so big. Like they only tolerate a petty bourgeois class, and like you said in another stream, they don't adhere or respect property rights in their constitution. But there's something that a couple people are bringing up. The problem with Cuba is the youth. They are pro-capitalism, and the youth is the problem.
That depends.
Not amongst all of them, but the thing is that a lot of it's like propaganda that seeps in from the outside world, and a similar problem was happening in the Soviet Union
and Yugoslavia, especially.
Yeah, because the thing is that while socialism, as it has existed historically, has done a very fantastic job of satisfying people's needs. Like, you don't have to worry about being truly poor in socialism. You're covered in healthcare, housing, education, and a job. So you've got the necessities covered. The problem is they lack the consumer economy. They don't have the same consumer markets that we do. So when they take all their needs being met for granted and their wants go up. And as a consequence, there's like a disconnect. Like the youth think that under capitalism, like all that other stuff is a given, but it's not.
Yeah,
so
we'd have to do obviously polling with the youth, but 98% of the Cuban population ratified socialism in the constitution in 2018, and this included like youth people. So I feel like the vast majority of youth are socialist oriented, and there is a vocal and significant amount of minority in the youth who are capitalist oriented.
Hold that
especially
thought.
After.
Hey! Hold that thought. I gotta use the restroom. We'll be right back.
Oh, chill. I'll answer some questions in the stream.
Dad, I am fucking live.
Cuba does have a tourist sector. Expect socialist. Yo, bro, ask us some questions because he's fucking gone. Like, you know, I don't know what that yelling was about. Oh, with the USSR's lack of tolerance. I would not consider Vietnam socialist. The lack of tolerance of education in the USSR and not getting in the youth is partially because of revisionism in the USSR. Carlton Books is where I got the facts. The Labour Party split. Oh, here we go. Okay, so the Labour Party split is essentially that Corbyn was recently ousted from his whip position in the Labour Party. And also, the corporate neoliberal side has repeatedly sabotaged Corbyn. And Corbyn is... Corbyn, whilst he is himself reasonably okay... whilst Corbyn himself is reasonably okay, that is completely and consistently undermined. And he is one person in a party that has been steeped in petty bourgeois ideology for decades. How do we stop revisionism? We have to, once, like fellow traveller said, we need to be quite a bit less kind to socialist elements. We also, significantly, need to put the people forward and the youth forward, which is what a lot of these revisionist countries forgot about. And we need to, and sure, we can enshrine it in the constitution. We already did in the USSR. However, we need to make we need to make institutions of militias where people themselves will enforce it in a sort of cultural revolution-esque way of fighting revisionism. The thing is with China's situation in the Cultural Revolution is that they failed at the Cultural Revolution and the revisionist bloc was reinstated. So, sorry, somebody asked me a bunch of questions about the Labour Party and also revisionism.
Yeah, no,
there's
that's
another
fine.
question about the Labour Party. Do you think Corbyn and his supporters should start a new party outside of Labour? I think Jeremy Corbyn leaving Labour would be fantastic for the far left.
Well, hold on. How compromised is the Labour Party? Because I think there's layers to this. Like, is there?
The left of Labour is workable with. I feel like we can work with the left elements of Labour, but it's mostly for us to, it's mostly for us to be able to get people who are from the more radical ranks of it. I've talked to multiple Momentum Labour people being in strikes with unions which have some Labour aristocratic lines. However, the actual infrastructure of the Labour Party is unsalvageable and it was petty bourgeois by design and social democratic by design from the beginning.
Yeah, all right, yeah. So that's a tough question because Labour is like significantly to the left of the American Democratic Party.
Yeah.
Like, if we were talking about the Democrats, I would just be like, scrap it. No, don't even bother. Just go green, go DSA. The Democrats are just too far gone.
I feel like in America you can consult with people who are young supporters of Justice Democrats.
Yeah, the issue with the Democrats is like they straight up make you take like a vow to like not affiliate with any other parties. Like you're basically married to the Democratic Party, which is for all intents and purposes a right-wing capitalist party masquerading as a progressive party.
I feel
Bernie
like
Sanders, Bernie Sanders was straight up controlled opposition from the start, dude.
Yeah, I feel like the DSA, if you are in like a state, well, massive red state, you're in like fucking Huntsville, Alabama, and the DSA is your only option, it's probably your only option to find real life comrades, Sure, it's an institution that isn't, great, but sometimes you need bodies and you need to find people. Because you don't want to be the only, you don't want to be the only communist in a red state when the Boogaloo boys start taking the street,
Yeah, to the degree to which you can work with people, like I said, I would just roll with the DSA. That's what I'm doing. I'm gonna join the DSA here pretty soon. I still
And
need to
the
read that.
PC USA and the IWW.
Yeah, no. There's multiple orgs that I want to get involved in, and I'm
Yeah,
gonna have a lot more time to do activism when I drop back down to part-time.
my
So
brother's actually a member of the IWW. I could get his wobbly card, actually.
if you're an American leftist, join Green, DSA, PSL, SA, PCUSA, IWW.
Workers' World, blah, blah, blah.
No, guys, we need to be like these hyper leftists. We need to be Gonzaloites. We need to follow the Austin Red
Join
Guard.
the Austin Red Guards. Go
Yeah,
storm a
we follow
DSA
their
meeting with
example.
rifles.
And
That'll
we need
get
to
you somewhere.
we need to start harassing and assaulting other leftists from other organizations because their line is revisionist, opportunist, etc. They're not. They don't adhere to Chairman Gonzalo. So
people LARP like they're fucking like Lenin in Macnovist times. You know, he worked with Macno up until Macno. You know, up until they fucking won. You know. Mao worked with the Kuomintang, who are significantly to the right of the DSA, you know? It's like people don't get the fact that compromise exists, and sometimes we have to make them.
Yeah, no, and there's a difference between, people have to understand there's a difference between, like, compromise and working. Like, you have to pick your allies wisely, is what I don't think people understand. Like, I don't believe, for example, within the modern context, that a united front against fascism would work. I think it was very, very specific to the times, and that if given the opportunity, if the Germans weren't trying to take colonies in Africa from the French and the British, if the Japanese weren't trying to take colonies from the French and the British, if the Germans weren't just, hyper aggressive with the French and the British, then I'm sure that, the other Western colonial powers would have been more than happy to just watch Germany bulldoze over Russia.
100%.
Yeah, no, I'm not convinced even slightly that the Western colonial bloc would have came to save the Soviet Union. The only reason they went to war is because Germany became a rival competing imperialist power and they had no choice.
Yeah, I've genuinely with what is to be done in the US context, the truth is that what a lot of people forget is that a lot of previous existing socialism has been a communist party that leads it and a bunch of trade unions and social democratic groups that decided to support revolution. And that it was usually a coalition which coalesced with the Vanguard Party into a government.
Yeah, pretty much. That's what happens. We're in a position now where we have to work and compromise with the people that are a little bit to our right, with the Social Democrats. But eventually, we need to work to a point to where we're in a position where they need to come to us for support.
Oh, yeah.
And they want to basically support us. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I've been talking to some people who are part of the United Panther movement. I'm pretty sure you might have heard of them. And they're willing to work with anarchists, and they're fucking revolutionary. So we should. I am willing to work. Maybe not with the staff, but definitely with the people in the ground of the movement.
There's
fucking Red Guards, man. They fucking bring shame upon the name of the actual Red Guards that existed.
I can't even find it, but there's this GIF, and what it is it's of I don't know if you've seen it, but it's a GIF, and it's a glowing green stick figure in the dark of the woods, and there's this music playing as he's walking through the brush. It's woo, and it's really, really. I don't know where it is. I've had that saved on my computer. I was looking for it, but I wanted to play it just now because it's very funny.
Yeah, my favorite one is when fucking Austrian Maoisto one decided to shit on Black Red Guard, who I have my differences with Black Red Guard, but if there's any like legit MLM, like the most legit MLM on the internet is fucking Black Red Guard.
Yeah, I've talked to Austrian Maoists in the past, but me and like the other Gonzaloites have kind of went our separate ways. I mean, there's some reaching out I've had with Matthew, but Gonzaloists are, without, for lack of a better word, at best they are basically LARPers in like middle class LARPers in the West, and at worst they're just outright wreckers and smashies that are just completely counterproductive to the cause.
They're the opposite of tailists. They're going so far ahead that they're leaving the people behind. You know,
Pretty much.
Storming a DSA meeting is only actually good if the USA is the USSA. You know,
like Gonzalo would come in handy if we were already in socialism and we were trying to have a push towards communism. But
Gonzalo would be a fantastic communist revolutionary in a socialist system.
Yeah, but what we need are a socialist revolution in a capitalist system. You know, they are way too, they're ultras, for lack of a better word, and a lot of the times they're really cringe and LARPy, and I'm not really a fan of them.
Like,
honestly.
actual revolutionary Maoists who take inspiration from Peru even have denounced like this dogmatism that Gonzalo is the sixth head of Marxism. Like, they even if they take influence. Highlight my point, I'm not anti-ML, I just don't agree with. Oh, being anti-anarchist and pro-Nazbol is like, you know, dumb. But my point is that most Nazbols live in Russia. And yeah, I'm not saying that we work with Nazbols unless it's like absolutely necessary. And there's no other pseudo anti-capitalist organizations.
Honestly, dude, socialist or like all Nazbol is, I'm pretty sure, is just conservative socialism, like really conservative.
It's either like if they're stressorists, they're anti-capitalist Nazis. But most Nazbols are like Russian nationalists usually. Like,
yeah, I couldn't work with anyone. I don't really think I could work with anyone on if they're like bigoted, like if they're like transphobic or homophobic, like openly. I mean, it would have to be like a desperate alliance, but otherwise, like, I would have
Caleb
a very
isn't a Nazbol. Caleb isn't a Nazbol. He's dumb on some things, and he shouldn't have been in a room with Dugan. But like, you know, Dugan is not as bad as people have said, as I've said on the previous stream. Dugan is like way overblown of how like right wing he is. I mean, he has weird takes on Russia, like the idea that like it should be a solidly Eurasian state without any individual autonomy of any regions and just should be under the banner of Father Russia, you know. That's fucked. But like he isn't really racist.
Yeah, no, I'll work with anarchists way sooner than I'll work with anyone.
way sooner.
Yeah, than Nazbol. Like, honestly, I don't even think Nazbols exist in America. I've yet to meet like one person either online or
I have met one person. I've met one person.
Yeah,
his name is Adolf Stalin, and he's a YouTuber with 500 subscribers. And he was on Finbal's Discord for like a minute.
These people are goofy. They're negligible. I just wouldn't worry about them. They're a total meme. I'll work with anarchists so long as they don't regurgitate CIA propaganda about actually existing socialism. As long as they don't do that and they don't push imperialist bullshit.
If they support Kurdistan, which is like wraps around to being imperialist, like, but they don't bother me. Like, if they try and kick you out of leftist spaces, they're being the wreckers, not you.
Oh yeah, no. And I've talked to anarchists that are sort of like that. There's this one guy that I need to eventually address. His name's Anarch. And I've spoken to this man in the past. His name is Anarch. I don't know if you've heard of him, but he's got
Anarcho Pack?
No, just Anarch.
Oh, who is the fucking guy that they said in the chat before to bring on? in the chat. There was like an anarchist guy that they said.
I have no idea. Let me check my Discord. He might have messaged me. No,
I'm gonna scroll.
I'm in contact with Anarch, and I've watched some of his videos recently, and I find this anarchist critique of really existing socialism to be very lacking. I find it to be very lacking and very weak. And when I first, talked to this guy, I wasn't super well read on theory. But what he does is he sort of like quote snipes Marx and Engels out of context and tries to say and he like quotes anarchists, and he just tries to like point this case that because there was a strong central government in really existing socialism, that it wasn't socialist, and that it's like an infantile disorder to have like a government that's actually capable of. Yeah, I know.
I've got the good book for this moment. Page 32. Page 32. This is the best thing that Caleb's ever done. Let's go. Let us have done with bourgeois objections to communism. We have seen above that the first step in the revolution by the working class is to raise the proletariat to position of the ruling class and win the battle of democracy. The proletariat will use its political supremacy by all degrees of all capital to centralize all instruments of production in the hands of the state, i.e. that of the proletariat organized into the ruling class, and to increase the total productive forces as rapidly as possible. That pretty definitively,
Yeah, there's a quote. I'm trying to find this quote that he pretty much quote snipes about the Free State.
Yeah.
He basically, it's something that Marx said in Critique of the Gotha when LaSalle was talking about the Free State. I'll just pull up the video because I was actually in the process of watching this. I'm gonna display it on YouTube for you guys. Fuck it, this is dunking on an ARC stream now.
Oh, by the way, can I use the footage in this video for my channel?
For what? Wait, what footage?
Like for the footage in the stream for my channel, or in previous ones, I might upload some of the content upload some of the stuff I'm in.
Sure, go ahead. But anyways, here it is. Let's go ahead and wind back. So here's Mark's beautiful bust. I'm gonna
pausing every 5 minutes again, like usual.
We're gonna go through only a part of this because I actually have to leave for work in like 30 minutes. So
yeah.
Notion of what should be done and by what.
Hold on, let me
get
screen share audio. Why not? Let's do this.
A practice struggle should take place sufficiently vague, making the threat of co-option inevitable. The most pertinent of these rhetorical choices was that Marx called for a stage in which there would be a dictatorship of the proletariat. But Marx almost certainly did not mean that a centralized bureaucracy with complete control should domineer workers and the previous bourgeois alike. Although it's true that he advocated centralization even as early as 1848 in the Communist Manifesto, by 1891 in his Critique of the Gotha program, Marx was brutally critical.
Was Marx even alive in 1891?
No, I don't think so. Marx's death date, go on.
No, I'm just gonna wiki this. Yeah, he wasn't even alive in 1891. He died in 1883.
Oh my god. How do you get something this basic wrong? When was Critique of the Gotha program written? Did you mean Engels? Engels was alive.
Yeah, no, Marx was dead like a decade prior to that. I don't know when
Engels was so much more of a tanky than fucking like Marx in terms of like what he has written down on paper. I'm pretty sure Marx would agree with Lenin.
Yeah,
but yeah.
So 1875 is when he wrote the Gotha, and it's funny because this guy likes to pretend like that On Authority as an essay doesn't exist, because Engels totally blows out anarchism, or at least the idea of anti-hierarchy, anti-authority in that short essay. It's a good essay. I recommend you guys check it out. On Authority.
On Authority, yeah.
Criticizing.
I did a book recommendation video a bit ago.
By 1891, in his critique of the Gotha program, Marx was brutally criticizing the German socialists.
Criticizing the German socialists for their belief that socialism could be achieved through a paternalistic state, saying, "Free state, what is this? It is by no means the aim of the workers who got rid of the narrow mentality of humble subjects to set the state free. Freedom consists in converting the state from an organ superimposed upon society into one completely subordinate to it. And today, too, the forms of state are more free or less free to the extent that they restrict the freedom of the state."
Okay, so what I wanted to do is go through this because he's trying to make the point that basically the Lassalleans wanted to take control of the government to establish socialism.
The Italians were Marxist-Leninists. But he was trying to make the point that that's what.
Yeah, no. The problem is that it's a false parallel because Leninists want to overthrow the government, not take over the current governments.
Oh, so they're like reformists, basically.
Yeah, no. That's the whole point of this quote. He's criticizing reformists, people that think that they can like work within the government and set it free, and basically make it into like a more fair and equitable democratic government when from its foundations it was born and wrought.
It's a tool of repression of classes.
Yeah, that was the point Marx was trying to make. And there's even a quote later, and he even mentions it funnily enough, where Marx says the state can be nothing more than the revolutionary dictatorship of the
The chat literally says that the quote itself kind of disproves him.
Yeah, no, so it's funny because he just made this quote, and it actually has nothing to do with this fucking point. Marx is all for revolution and overthrowing the government. And let me go ahead and try and see this whole quote. Free state, what is this?
Because there was ellipses. So he left something out of the quote.
Here it is. A free state, what is it? It is by no means the aim of the workers, who have got rid of the narrow mentality of humble subjects, to set the state free. In the German Empire, the state was almost as free as in Russia. Freedom consists in converting the state from an organ superimposed on society into one completely subordinate to it. And today, too, the forms of the state are far more free, or free less than to the extent that they restrict the freedom of the state. In the German Workers' Party, at least if it adopts the program, shows that its socialist ideas are not even skin deep, in that instead of treating existing society as the basis of the existing state, it treats the state rather as an independent entity that possesses its own intellectual, ethical, and libertarian basis. So
it's about the fact that it's a tool of capitalist repression and not the state.
Yeah, and it needs to be overthrown. And that's the point that Marx is trying to make. He's criticizing Lassalle for fornicating too much with the bourgeois state. Marx isn't saying that you can't have a state, or basically socialism can't be achieved through basically having a state. And that's kind of.
I would love if every anarchist never called themselves an ANCOM and just went with anarcho-syndicalism or a Bukharinist, because at least then they'd be intellectually honest. Like,
we can see by this that, in fact, was freedom of the state. We can see by this that the notion that worker control meant centralized state control was certainly not a view held by the end of Marx's life.
It had nothing to do with whether or not the state would centralize. It had to do with whether or not we should work within and take over the current state as it exists.
Yeah. The whole point of like the dictatorship of the proletariat is that the state itself is subordinate and dictated by the proletariat.
Yeah, and he tries to make the point that the Soviet Union wasn't that. It wasn't a dictatorship of the proletariat. But the problem with that is that if you look at like the political law and like the way that like the Soviet Union actually functions, it for all intents and purposes was, well, let's see, they didn't uphold private property, and you weren't allowed to like have private property. They had guaranteed basic, just read the Stalin Constitution, They had guaranteed provisions. The economy operated according to a plan. And mind you, the 5-year plans were drafted based on information and data that was taken across like pretty much all of the political organs from, across the country. It wasn't just a handful of guys drafting these plans. You can't even draft a 5-year plan without getting information and feedback from below. Like, how the fuck does he think the USSR worked?
Yeah, by the way, sorry, footnote. I meant to mention that ICA badge I have. Have you ever heard of James Connolly?
No.
Oh shit. Okay, so James Connolly was like the Marxist leader of that organization, and his writings are extremely influential, and I'd recommend you read him if you ever have time.
Gotcha.
Indeed, the only state that Marx could see as consistent with worker control was one completely subordinated to the direct will of the workers. In fact, in critique of the Gotha program, he excoriated the German Social Democrats for the notion that they should even presume to educate the masses. Government and church should rather be equally excluded from any influence on the school. The state has need, on the contrary, of a very stern education by the people.
This doesn't contradict anything that Marxist-Leninists believe. Wow.
Yeah, no, it doesn't. Hold on.
I love that PDFs exist and you can just like check people on their bullshit.
Yep. Elementary education by the state is altogether objectionable. Defining by general law and expenditures of elementary schools, the qualifications of the teaching staff, the branches of instruction, and, as is done in the United States, supervising the fulfillment of these legal specifications by state inspectors is a very different thing from appointing the state as the educator of the people. Government and church should rather be equally excluded from any influence on the school, particularly indeed in the Prusso-German Empire. And the state has need, on contrary, of a very stern education by the people. Yeah, no, so no, we don't disagree with this. Like, it's not that MLs don't. What I'm trying to say is, where's the contradiction? Like,
yeah, my point is, have you ever heard of the term from the people to the party, from the party to the people? They are supposed to work in a symbiotic relationship where the party is members of the proletariat who have educated themselves in Marxism, responding to the thesis of the masses and the repeated contradictions that come about.
Yeah,
and create a synthesis that responds to the problem.
Yeah, and like he'll try to make the point that because the ML state had an influence on education and so on, that because they had that education and they would do censorship. So what are you just supposed to do? Like not censor like capitalist rotors and so on? I mean, the Soviet system definitely had its problems. It didn't do like an adequate enough job addressing certain criticisms, I think. Like it had a propensity to try and hide its problems. There are things you can criticize the Soviet Union for, and many of those are criticisms I would agree with, but you cannot say that they were capitalist in any realistic measure of the word.
I meant to say that, like, to create an antithesis, which then creates a synthesis.
Gotcha.
So where did the authoritarian tendency arise, if not from Marx? Well, upon inspection of the historical record, the truest forerunner to the authoritarian ideology appears to be an individual named Louis-Auguste Blanqui. Blanqui, an early French socialist revolutionary, did not believe that the proletarian were up to the task of revolution on their own. Instead, Blanqui conceived of the need of a small group of revolutionary professionals who would form a vanguard party and then lead the workers in a coup against the state, proceeding to suppress the previous ruling class until a time would come that a transition to socialism could take place. Blanqui did not attempt to conceive of the socialist future, nor when, how, and where the transition from vanguard rule to worker control might take place. It was far more important.
Symbiotic.
I believe Blanqui, I don't think, I might have my philosophers mixed up, but I believe he was in favor, I don't think he was really in favor of socialism in the same meaning as like Marx was. I think he was in favor of kind of like a military caste ruling over society. Like, I think he was more in favor of like a caste system. Like you had like a military caste and you had like a society that was organized sort of like ancient Sparta. Don't quote me on that. I might have my philosophy. Let me check.
Listen, I've not heard of this guy. I would probably, rather read like Proudhon and fucking Peter Kropotkin before I ever read this guy who I've never heard of.
Let's see. Yeah, no, I'm quoting the red flag. I know you guys don't like it, but I swear it's like the first page.
I have no clue what you're referring to in the red flag.
Yeah, you know what? I'm not going to worry about it.
I don't know what that book is.
Its ruling class was defeated at all costs. this is not the last we'll hear of such a viewpoint, although its next adherents will not call themselves Blanquists. With these foundations in place, we can now turn our inspection to the next and perhaps most significant development in the authoritarian leftist ideology, calling itself Marxist-Leninism.
Can you hear it? All right.
Yeah, I can hear it fine.
This ideology, basing itself on the thought of Vladimir Lenin, would animate a great many revolutionary struggles and ideological offshoots to come. However, we don't have sufficient time to inspect all of those. Instead, we'll look at the most significant of these offshoots, Marxist-Leninist Maoism, in part 3 of this video series.
Well, hold on a second. I think even Marx, kind of alluded in some of his writings to the need for a kind of vanguard party. Hold on.
Yeah. Didn't he literally start the first, communist party? Like, the first party which was supposed to function and promote other revolutionary parties?
Wait, could you repeat that?
I swear, I read in Engels on Marx, that he literally started the first international communist organization, which was supposed to promote revolution, and he promoted parties in specific countries to try and do a revolution.
I'm sorry, I keep losing track. I'm trying to read this. Engels, in his preference to Marx's class struggles, in addition, states that we are not the times prize tax. I guess this guy's answer.
Sorry, my foot got pins and needles. Wait, did we stop talking about Fidel?
Yeah, no, we did. We totally derailed it, but it's honestly fine.
Fidel's awesome was the long and short of it, wasn't it? And Viva Fidel, Viva Che, blah blah blah. I have a Cuban flag.
So since Marx argued that the emancipation of the working class should be an act of the workers themselves, I see no reason why he would have rejected the idea of a vanguard party, and every reason to conclude he would have concurred with it. Marx advocated this idea all but in name. As Dave King answers this question, self-emancipation of the working class. What is a vanguard party? So Marx didn't really directly advocate for a vanguard party, but he did advocate for a well-disciplined workers' party. Basically a communist party, a communist league. So yeah, what do you think a vanguard is, dude? It's a party comprised of the most advanced, theoretically well-read sections of the working class. Because I know there's this vision where you have a construction worker or a plumber that's leading the charge on the revolution, but someone who works a lot of hours and has a family to take care of is generally not going to have the time or interest to sit down and read the theory needed in order to be an effective vanguard theoretician and organizer. Don't get me wrong. What's up?
To be honest, historically, especially recently, people like Fred Hampton, Huey P., Bobby Seale, they've all been young people who've had a lot of time on their hands to read. And were in the working classes, but tended to read very early on. So they didn't have to work a full-time fucking job and, propagandize and do party work whilst working a full-time job.
Yeah, the thing is that this is where it's not enough to just read and interpret theory. There's also practice that comes involved and what that practice involves in real life. And as it turns out, historically, the most successful, long-lasting revolutions that have been able to effectively establish and build socialism were all ones where you had a communist party consisting of the most advanced sections and members of the working class comprised into said party were the ones who ended up leading the charge and overthrowing capitalism and establishing a new system. So I don't really see how this contradicts Marx or Engels' vision of the workers themselves leading it. The vanguardists are workers. They have the same relationship to the means of production. And, a lot of people, I've heard people make the point about bureaucrats consisting of their own class under socialism, but not at all. I mean, it's just a different type of work. Bureaucrats do not own any capital. They can't wage labor. They can't decide their own wages, and they can't decide what the means of production produce according to profitability. They have to adhere to a plan that has been drafted, basically.
To be honest, the worst I could argue is that they had become a aristocrat strata in the Khrushchevite
Oh
years.
yeah, no, no.
Yeah.
In their later years, there was definitely a trend towards like the intelligentsia and like
And
basically
labor aristocrats.
kind of, yeah. And I mean, there was definitely an income divide in the Soviet Union, but it's a far cry from what you see, in say the United States.
I mean,
Like,
you literally went over the amount of capital that people gain. Like the fucking, if we solved those capitalists and gave $1 trillion, everybody could get $4,000 richer. That's fucking enormous. You could probably spread out their monthly income, and people would get £100 each. Like, arguably.
anyways, no, but theory evolves, theory advances, and the concept of vanguardism wasn't really like prominent and well established in Marx's day. So, anyways, I need to dedicate time to like do a full-fledged response to an arc. I might even have him on for a debate sometime, but I've talked to him in the past. He performed very well, just because I wasn't really well read at the time that we talked, and I didn't have a full grasp of my own ideology yet. I'm gonna go through his videos and watch them all, and see what else he has to say. But like, based on like some of what I've watched so far, I'm really not impressed.
Oh, by the way,
I'm really not impressed.
why do you use StreamYard and not Discord? Just curious.
Honestly, I have no idea. I didn't even know you. I mean, I knew you could stream on Discord, but I don't really know how to operate the stream on Discord, so I'm just using StreamYard.
If you want, you could ask Jason. I know that Jason does that for all his like gaming videos.
I gotcha. Well,
Yeah.
I think I'm gonna go ahead and bring things to a close because I gotta get ready for work and leave here pretty soon.
See you,
yeah,
comrades.
yeah.
Shout out my channel, Proletarian You. Plug.
Hell yeah.
Viva Che, Viva Fidel, Viva Stalin, blah blah blah.
Yeah, you guys can check him out, and yeah, I'm gonna go get to work, and like I said, I'm gonna try to have a new video out as soon as possible. It's just very difficult for me to get time just 'cause of the sheer hours I'm working. But anyways, see you guys later.
I'm glad you've decided to get a new camera and microphone on Impulse.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna probably do it this Friday as soon as I get that juicy
yeah.
$1,100.
And